I don't have to worry about Travis saying crazy things right now, so that's not such a bad. Keeps me on my toes every week. I'm like, all right, when is the
He's a
week that
busy
I'm gonna get?
guy.
Dude, he is. Man must not sleep. Must not sleep. Much in the TWAB besides the TWID. New emblems apparently coming. I saw the Callie thing and I was like, you owe Callie an apology. I'm like, I didn't get a chance to do it yet. Don't take it away. And then it does sound like you're still going to be able to farm. So I need to get
All
back
right.
on that. All right. I think we are good. I know people are in chat. All right. We'll go silence on the set in 5, 4. Hello, and we are live. Literally just the two of us. You've got myself, Ebontis, and joining us from across the pond, staying up late for us, and the man who was the first and original creator of the TWID, the one,
Oh,
the
goodness.
only, Jarv. How you doing, man? Short intro, but still had to get a little one for you. Returning guest, love to have you back. So.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to be here. We have good talks.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It has been a hot minute. Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll
a
just
lot
like
of water under the bridge.
Indeed. Yeah, so I know we just had Summer Games Fest. We'll probably talk about that stuff towards the end of the show since we'll start with a little bit of Destiny. But we're getting into week 3, kind of seeing a little bit more of what this season's going to have to offer outside of maybe Legendary Salvage. We'll have to see if that actually ends up being a thing. They tend to throw one of those in later on. But where are you first, I wanted to ask, just on this season? On the whole, like the activities you got to offer, you could go into technicals to like where are you feeling like Season of Deep, week 3, Thursday afternoon. How you feeling about Destiny right now?
You can probably see I'm quite agitated, but it's just like I feel like the last couple of weeks, man, I've just got a little bit more frustrated with just Destiny generally, like because my real worry is there is a lot of good stuff, in my opinion, in Season of the Deep. I feel like people remember seasons for various things, and we'll get into season 22 and whatever, and we'll look back, and everyone will just remember the issues and not the good things. The dungeon, the armor, deep dive, the rogue mechanics that has, and actually how cool that is, and the scalable difficulty. I like that. There are good elements to it. The power grind is an integral piece that's missing, and it kind of makes the front end of the season feel really light. I think even on my Tuesday stream, I said to my chat, like, does anyone else feel like it's like the final 3 weeks of a season rather than the first 3 weeks of a season? Because it just feels a little bit slow. And I know like GMs are next week, things will pick up a little bit then. You mentioned Legends Salvage. I think they're like week 6 or 7. So they are in the pipeline, but we've got to wait for those. I think there's about 3 more weeks worth of story.
Sounds right. Yeah,
every week between now and then, though, is just going to be, is that exotic scout rifle out yet, Jarv? You know, where's the guide?
Where's the guide? Like, I'll get it as soon as I can get through the thing, of course.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, that's where I am with it. There are elements that I do enjoy, but like we spoke just before the show, like with a lot of the issues that we've been seeing, especially within the last 48 hours, that's a big reason why you and I haven't done things like our flawless runs on like the dungeons, or low man attempts, because there's no guarantee you'll get through that 2 hours without an issue or another. I just loaded into a strike yesterday after doing a new arc build. The first charged melee I did, I just got broccolied, like, and then just the game just froze. I hadn't even killed anything. So
no, that was me earlier today too. I was telling you the same thing. I was like, all right, so what's my morning gonna hold? And trying to figure out content for next week and kind of run through my head on that. So I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I've been thinking, as you said, about doing a solo flawless, but I was like, it's been a little technical, iffy. Let me go run a couple PvP matches, knock out another challenge, get a little XP. 2 PvP matches in a row. I got a plum error. So it's the battle eye error and then plum comes up. So like knock it out, log back in. And then I was like standing in the tower, left it in the tower, went to go walk in the room, came back and had another one. I was like, all right, I'm going to go work out. Like I can't do anything right now. And then I know I saw Bungie help overnight. So for me, it was like 4 a.m. For you, it was probably 10 p.m. or something like that the night before. It looked like they had late issues last night because they said there were some server issues as well. And they took them down right when Summer Games Fest went live. So, like, they had issues last night and then again less than 24 hours later.
Yeah, I thought like them taking the servers down before the Summer Games Fest might mean there's something a little bit juicy hiding in that for us. But because sometimes when the game goes offline, there's a trailer in there. But
Yeah, that's true.
it was Destiny 2 was there for like half a second. You had to be
Yeah, I
real
saw
quick.
little like Game Pass clips. Yeah.
A little bit was there. But yeah, I think there's so many different error messages now, and you know, having various animals or fruits applied to them
Yeah.
is fair enough. But how that feels for players, I mean, it doesn't tell us anything really, does it? Yeah.
No, I mean they do that for coding purposes.
There's not enough information there.
Yeah, I was like, they do that for us to know why, but it's like when you say, "Hey, I have this error," and chat knows what the errors are half the time better than I do, which is it's nice to know somebody knows those errors, but it's not like, "Hey, there's an internet connection," or "We lost connection to yours." It's like it just says plum, and it'll say you
Yeah.
got disconnected, but plum, chicken, couple random ones that you see more frequently than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's been I mean, it's been an ongoing build for a while now. It's like I traded a couple tweets with Demon Joe. I was talking to him, and he was just saying
Yeah,
it's
he's
like
been pretty
when
vocal about it.
yeah, it's
His
like
frustrations.
some people are more vocal than others, but he was just asking about compensation. It's like, and I played my time in WoW, subscription games, stuff like that. I mean, you had server maintenance on Tuesdays almost like damn near every week. You had downtime, it was just like part of the equation. I get that, but these are like unscheduled, emergency, gonna take it down. And even the one today was like, hey, we're gonna take it down at like it was 12 p.m. Pacific. They took it down like 8 minutes sooner. I'm like, you can't even wait till the time you said it was scheduled for to actually. I'm like, is it getting that bad? Is what's going on? And it seems to be building. Like we've had more and more issues and technical, and this exotic needs to be. So I don't like as you said, it was the when we get a new expansion, get a new season, like especially a new season, a chance to clear up some tech debt. And that's
Mm.
kind of one of those. Not a developer, totally talking out of my butt here. But technical debt, for those who don't know, is stuff that like kind of accumulates over time. If you get a chance for a big release or a bigger patch, it would be time to work on some of that stuff as a quick baby tiny hot fix or something. So it's going to be a bigger chance to fix those moments. And it does feel like more and more as we get farther along, from late Witch Queen to like Seraph to Lightfall to this, there's an accumulation of things that just aren't quite meshing well anymore. The spaghetti code is a bad metaphor, but things do seem on the messy side. And I was just kind of curious, like, you do your This Week in Destiny. You do your streams and stuff like that because you do your Monday video, you do your Tuesday streams. How has
Mm.
just been the feel of your streams? I mean, you got a pretty good audience, I think, as well. So I was like,
Yeah,
how is chat and how are they talking about just their feels about everything?
Yeah, chat are they let you know, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know how it is. They let us know. But I say how it is as well. At the end of the day, we're creators, but we're also fans of the game as well. So that's why like my agitation and frustration comes from, because the last couple of weeks I've been feeling it more because I just want to play the game too, right? And then it just becomes like a bit of a roundabout because it seems to be happening over and over. And they share the same sort of sentiment, really. And I think I tweeted out earlier about, live service games are some of the most complex games that are always online. And like Destiny is probably the biggest one out of the live service games. So who knows how complex it is on the back end. Like you say, we just sit here as backseat devs and have absolutely no idea. But
Yeah.
tech debt is real, but other live service games aren't immune from it either. Like I think Division 2 had a new season go live today that hasn't gone live because they've got game save issues and stuff like that, which aren't easy fixes, right?
Yeah.
We know what rollbacks do to Destiny and how complex they can be. So no live service game's immune from it, but Destiny's definitely carrying debt, and they definitely carried some over from pre-Lightfall for sure, because it hasn't seemingly got any better since then. That sentiment's kind of shared, really. But I feel like in terms of the duration of the streams, I feel like they're just generally a little bit shorter because there's just less to cover each week.
Yeah.
You have your kind of weekly mission. It takes you maybe an hour if you factor in getting signed in if the game's offline prior, which can happen if there's an update, which there will be this week. I assume there'll be one pre-reset. So the game will be offline. So it's getting in the game, then getting into all the stores and have a looking at those, and then actually running the mission. But after that, I mean, we've got Grandmasters, but you can't run all 6 now back to back. So
Well, I was like, so I know there's the node, but you can't do them all, or
I think you can only run
or does
for the
that
first
unlock
4 weeks. You can
later?
only run the one for the week, and then you
That's
can
right.
run them
That
all.
thing unlocks later. Okay. So yeah, you'll
Yeah,
be doing focus on one GM kind of thing, not as much putting it all together. Yeah, it's
it's
like
like it's like the handbrake on. The handbrake is on from the moment the season started, kind of thing. Really, we haven't really let the handbrake off yet for some reason.
yeah. I mean, as you said, there are some highlights this season. I saw Dado dropped a video, and it was literally a positive video about Deep Dive. I saw he dropped that one,
Hmm.
and we've been I've talked about that like on streams and on the podcast the last couple of weeks. I love Hades. Like, I don't know if you've ever played Hades, but it is a fantastic roguelike, like one of the best.
Mm.
And every room that you clear, you literally get to pick one of 2 buffs. Sound familiar?
Yeah,
And that's kind of what we're getting into. So it's like they're flirting with this little like roguelike. And sometimes I'll go in there because I was, working on trying to do like even tier 4 solo kind of thing. Can I get that good run where things come together? And I've got close a couple of times, like within seconds of finishing Abyss, and I just got to eventually put it together. But it is kind of about the luck of the draw. Some are going to be better, some are going to be worse. You got to play into it a little bit. If you have like Power and Void or something like that, and you're running an arc build, you're like, oh, gotta do it. Like, I mean, you kind of have to switch some stuff up. But also, I really like how they did the difficulty with the pressure trials. It allows, now, granted, getting other people to do the pressure trials, that's a whole different topic for discussion. Supposed to
yeah,
die, literally dying on the dot. Like, you can go over there and try and get people to revive you. But the fact that they incorporated like, here's this thing you can do normally, or you want bonus mode on every tier, it's going to be rough. Now, the rewards I've heard can be good. Of course, every reward's a little RNG, but I mean, you can get an exotic out of it theoretically if you get to that like tier 6 or 7. I don't know which one it requires, but
yeah. So it goes 3, 5, 7.
yeah.
We did tier 7 on reset. One of our fire team hadn't done pressure trials, so it's like, well, you just show me what we need to do. And I was kind of ready for tier 5 because we did experience tier 5, but then when tier 7 happened, like you have that new space that you go into. There's like a taken night, and we kind of just unloaded everything into that guy because we were like, he's big,
Yeah.
he's gonna take us out, kind of thing, with the wizards and stuff. And then once we took that combatant out, then you get the taken minotaur. I was like, oh, we don't have any ammo left. Like, this is really bad. Like, there's no way to rally a flag. Like, if you don't have any aeons or another way of trying to create ammo off mini bosses and stuff.
I have a thought about that in a second, but keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it can become quite challenging. We literally went right down to the wire and killed him literally on 0, and managed to get tier 7. But once you're in the final room, you can kind of breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a restricted spawn zone, so you have to be mindful of the fire team. If they all 3 die, you have to restart, but you don't lose your loot if you die, so it's not the end of the world. You just need to finish it to earn it. So I like it. Maybe the boss arenas could be different each time rather than going to the same place with a different boss. But we're splitting hairs. It's
like, is that asking too much? Because I feel like that's one of those that's taken many play. This has been for years. I mean, I'm thinking Shadowkeep's first season of the Undying. That's the right terminology. Still had like similar boss room. Like, we've had the similar boss room thing. You get a little variety. But then when we got to the end, I was like, oh, we're going to have different bosses at different depths. That's what I thought the first week. And then we end up skipping all the way down to that boss room. And I'm like, okay. So it's like you get some variety as you go through it. You get the different jobs and the challenges. You said I haven't done it, but it's rough. Like, you're not, like, shout out to Esoteric for doing it solo. More power to the crazy guy for doing tier 7 by himself. I don't
know how he does it, man. Honestly.
I was trying to even get to like tier 4 solo and struggling. So yeah.
Yeah. I got an exotic out of mine. I got an exotic, 2 high stat armor, 5 engrams, some bait.
5, nice.
Yeah, you get 2 from. I got 2 from the actual tier 7 chest and like 3 from the bonus chest.
That's pretty solid though. Like, those things will start adding up. And that's kind of the thing where if you have a group, and I think I saw somebody on Reddit say, like, it does feel like this is kind of begging for that LFG feature to be active, which is still 2 seasons away. Like 23 is when it's pushed out to, I think now. And it was made potentially with people, you know, if LFG was in here and you were going, okay, pressure trials, little LFG quick matchmaking, get a group together, chat it up, cool, let's jump in, and you could do that in game. That'd be great.
Mm.
But I like the concept of what they're doing there. The chance for the more difficulty, the little bit of a roguelike section. That one's cool. Then and then I swear more enemies, you know, between that and the dungeon, more enemies than I know what to do with. And then on the other side, we have salvage. Salvage is like I could watch a Netflix like show while I'm doing that one because you can do one of two things. You can do the objectives. Somebody's eventually going to do them. There's no like enrage time or anything, or you can sit there and shoot the spawn door. Like the spawn doors are so obvious in this one. If you kind of bump into one, you see everybody just running. Oh, okay, I'll just sit here and shoot these guys for a while, and
But
then
most of those spawn doors don't even have solid backs to them. You can just run through them, and then you just fall underneath the map.
oh, good. I haven't actually done that yet.
So basically, those spawn doors, if you look at them, they are the exact same as one of the spawn doors that we used to see in the Savathûn song strike. And there was one halfway through that strike whereby when he had spawned through it, you could pass through the other way and get all the way to Savathûn's song. You can get to the boss without doing a big part of the strike. But it seems like they've used that door in salvage.
Oh,
So whenever they open, you can go through pretty much everyone the other way as well. It isn't helpful for your team
no,
because you can't get out, you can't do anything, but it's quite interesting
you're
if you want
just
to see
stuck
what
in the map
outside
until
the
you get
map
pulled
looks
to the
like.
boss. The bosses
Yeah, you
themselves
get
actually
pulled.
aren't terrible. Like either of the two bosses, the guy on the runes, I wish it wasn't like standing on the plate. I wish the dude would come into my view so I could see him, like the little shielded guys for the big hive
Yeah.
arena. But the bosses themselves aren't bad. I mean, the big ogre like trying to shoot his back when he's kind of turning around a thing. But I was like, neither of those are bad. It just seems like the jobs in and of themselves for the 6-man, there's so many people, it just never feels like you have enough to do.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just running around because everything else is getting done so quickly. Like, and the ad density isn't really there when you compare it to deep dive. But there's only 3 of you in deep dive, so
Right.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of salvaging, especially when you compare it to deep dive.
Yeah.
To be honest, but
Nope. Yeah, so I was like, and that's some seasons we only get the 3-person activity, and I don't know if that would have been if they would have felt it would have been a little light early in the season because they like do the time gating of the 3 levels. But if they would have just given us all 3 levels and that was your activity and salvage wouldn't have been there, I don't know if anybody would have not would have missed salvage. I mean,
yeah, when you think about it as well, it's like when you think of seasons where they've had 2 activities, which is a
one's
common
always not.
theme.
Yeah, one's
One's
never.
always not that great. Like the only time it kind of maybe kind of worked was when you had Season of the Drifter, but that's because you had Gambit, which was already a ritual activity,
Right.
and Reckoning was the loop, right? So if they use a ritual activity to create a loop, it could probably be better, but they need to obviously update the playlist to make it relevant to whatever's going on or whatever the theme of that season is, which is it easier said than done, right? To completely change that.
Yeah.
But like if we took like Season of the Plunder, you had expeditions and Catch Crash. Expeditions was fun when you could choose it, boring when you couldn't, and you know it's been like that pretty much.
Yeah.
Each season there's been 2 activities, right?
Yeah, and then Season of the Seraph or whatever. I think that's what got me so bad was Season of the Seraph hit a lot of things really well. Exotic mission was cool. The weekly activity seemed to be decent with your different unlocks that you had. Story was compelling with Red. Can't even remember his real Rasputin. Um, something about Savathûn just like hit. So it was like going into light. Then we get Lightfall, and we're like, you know, big giant craters. I'm not gonna call names specifically, but big giant craters who are also across the pond with you weren't big fans of the story. And, you know, it's like you have kind of the open world and stuff like that. It's like Seraph was a high and Witch Queen was also like that year, like the bookends were so good. And so far this year, there are a few like cool moments that I've had, but it doesn't feel like I've had a bigger feature that's hit quite as well. Um,
Yeah. I mean, Scar's like Reckoning sucked. Oh no, it sucked, dude. I'm just saying, like
borderline
So does a
impossible
lot of
without
the second
blueberries.
activities we get every season.
Yeah, I was like, they built that one activity due to power creep. They've said it multiple times. It's like you guys have wells and everything else, and if you were in a group, you could get through it. But it was like stand in the well, throw the Nova bombs, get those restarted, throw the bomb, use the certain exotics, you get them back, and do it. Like they built an activity based around us, and you kind of see that sometimes too. I was watching a guy who did a video, it was for Diablo 4, and he was like, what it's like at level 82 out of 100. He's played a crap load. I'm barely like right around 50. I finished the campaign, almost getting to like tier 3, which is a decent amount, and that dude's way past me. But the way he described it is, I think this game should be balanced, and also is probably designed for that middle to a little more casual player. And again, we're the crazy hardcore people.
Mm.
And it's also like the balance of, I know when I struggle to get certain things, like right now, the Nightfall red border weapons, because I didn't, do all the patrols and stuff like that. They made those worse recently. And I have to ask is like, are you worried about people getting those? You made them harder to get. I don't understand. There are certain decisions they do when it's like they seem, and this is one thing that Division 1 really ticked me off about, is they had a currency that a whole bunch of streamers and like the elite players farmed the crap out of. Well, then they changed like the cost of things based on how much they had. And you screw over 90% of the player base when you do that. And again, for the people who already have them, it's not that big of a deal. But when you turn around and have the mid to average player, the casual somewhere in the middle of the bell curve, who has some time to play, it's the grind is being stretched pretty thin. And then playing Diablo, you get to see loot like fall that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing we're kind of struggling with a little bit right now too.
Whenever they've done like developer insights, they kind of talk about 30 minutes of fun and finding that loop. But I do feel like that loop is very sometimes artificial or more convoluted than it needs to be, right?
Yep.
Sometimes simplicity is what it needs. But I guess we'll have to find out next season and see what that happens. See if we get. I mean, I don't know if we're going to have a power increase next season. They haven't really seen.
They haven't said on that one. I wonder if they're like, do people like it? Do people not like it? Do we have the engagement? I'm sure they'll be looking at the. Do you want it back or not? I'd be curious.
I haven't missed it. It has allowed me to catch other characters up, though. I guess Bungie they're very data driven. We know this, right? That's unfortunately when we see nerfs, it's because of spreadsheets we see in TWABs and usage is high, and stuff like that. So they'll look at player, play time and people actually playing the game, and they'll make a decision on that. But there's just so many factors this season. It's going to be hard to quantify. You got really good games releasing.
Oh, and Diablo right now is like alone, but you have Zelda, Street Fighter 6, and then Final Fantasy 16 is coming up. I mean, those alone are all massive.
Massive games. Obviously, the performance issues we spoke about already, and the general cadence of this season is seemingly quite slow and quite casual from what we've experienced previously. So if you combine those three things together, I think naturally you're just going to see a kind of a settling, a lower kind of concurrent number. But from what they've been putting on Twitter, I mean, there's still 1 million players a day playing Destiny.
I've seen some of the, what is it, Destiny Bolton or whatever, dropping some of the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, apparently the Steam charts are still huge, so somebody's enjoying it. I mean, I even saw, it was one piece of Reddit, sorry. Somebody was like, I just kind of have to say this. It's like, it's near the top. Where did I say it? Because I just got Destiny 2 this week, and I have one thing to say. This game is amazing. Sci-fi action is awesome. Unlike current military shooters, I have all the color and the combat and the explosions, all the different colors and bullet tracing, all the unique weapons, like the grenade launcher that uses void weapons with sticky grenades. The combat is just beautiful. Reminds me of all those weapons from the film District 9. This game also takes me back to the days of Defiance, which I loved as well. I just recently got half-decent internet. Sometimes it's slow, but what? So it's like, some people, like, you find a new person that sounds like that and you're going, and maybe I'm just a little jaded. And you sometimes wonder. So, yeah, it's like, when you say Grandmasters are coming, those are going to be time gated. Fishing, just due to public events, it's time. Like, that one annoys me. I know they're like afraid of.
I don't know why it's a thing, dude. I know what you're going to say. I don't know why it's
public events wiping out your progress is just like, somebody's like, well, people are going to live here and fishing. they're in your game. Why do you care? Like, you sell a fishing hat and you put a fishing title in there, you're gonna have people logging in. Like, gotta get more fishing done. It's like you can only have 500 bait or whatever. You got like a 1% chance on exotics or something like that. So you get 5 exotics and you have to go farm again. But I was like, I got through maybe 50 loot. We got our progress up there. I was getting a couple legendaries. Public event wiped it out. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to do this right now. At some point they will change it. I don't give, is not worth my time. Like, that was the quickest turn off to fishing for me, I think, instantly. Because it's kind of fun, like the little mini game. You can watch something, catch up on a little stuff on the side. And then why, Scarrow, why is there no fishing title? Actual highway robbery. Yeah, I know. Like,
Dude, missed opportunity big time. Fishing's actually like. Can you? Oh, just found out I can charge my mobile using my sofa. Awesome. Bombshells.
nice.
Trailer 4. Fishing, tile, missed opportunity. Cool. So yeah, like this like salvage and deep dive and stuff like that. I used to actually enjoy just getting loads of bait during the day
Mhm.
while I was making content, and then just about now, just be like while I'm winding down, just go fish for a
We'll
bit.
chill, throw on some music, throw
Just
on a YouTube
chill, put
video,
some
yeah,
music
catch
on,
up.
that's it. See what you get.
But yeah, the fact that it wipes progress, you just can't say. And then, so then you're like, okay, do I play the instance hunting game for the groups that got it? The fact that you can leave fish on the ground, not pick them up, wait a couple public events to a thing to rotate back where you were, and then that's how you get progress. I'm like, no, stop this. Like, that's just one of those things. It's like, accept the bad decision, and oh, God forbid people live fishing. Nobody's getting too many guns or things that way. I'm sorry. Like, if they do, then you can change the loophole if you really care. But I think that's one thing right now, like after playing the Diablo, Destiny, and Tassie may have said this too recently, Destiny is stingy. There are times I think where the amount of loot you get for the time that you go, I mean, if you get a tier 7, I mean, you said you got like 5 engrams, but if I do a tier 3 and I get 3 engrams, you should get like 7, 8, 9 engrams. Just like, you should get a little bit of a shower. If you do a tier 7, you should get a little bit of an extreme amount, because that is no
Mm.
joke. 3 people, you said it was down to the wire. And you may get a little easier when you get a bit more artifact power, but tier 7 is going to be no joke. And the fact that you're not, getting a little loot pinata versus, you'll get a decent amount of stuff on the screen, but it's like, I always feel like the game could be more generous and not hurt 90% of the player base. Us crazy people who make content and live in this thing, that's one thing. We're always never going to have enough. But for the average player, they never get enough loot, I feel like.
It's funny because I was saying like almost the polar opposite like last week, saying like I like this is just me, this is my opinion, so don't take it for what you will. But
Oh,
I
you're good.
personally wouldn't care if Bungie come along and necessarily kind of just nuked my vault because I don't really use anything that's in there, and actually it's so easy. Like if they nuked all my high stat armor, I wouldn't care because I just go get some engrams, and within like 2 hours, I'd have some high stat armor from this season,
Yeah.
like easy. Like it's not hard to get it. Nothing's hard to really get in Destiny
Well, that's fair.
when you look at it that way. But it also questions having a reason or a purpose to run something. You know, it's all well and good having a shower of loot at the end, but if I'm just going to shard it all into legendary shards, which is what we all do most of the time,
That's fair.
then it's what value actually does that have? That's the kind of sort of angle I had on it.
I mean, that's a legitimate perspective though. You can get showered with a bunch of trash and it's still trash. So I get
Yeah.
that. Scarrow said it's like Lost Sectors. There's a billion exotics in the game. You go in there as one character, you have like 13 different chances, plus a reasonable stat roll, plus it all. There's just too much RNG. So
Too many variables, yeah.
yeah, just the fact that it's that high. Yeah, I mean, I will say I don't like you get one artifice class item for you. I don't need another class item for a year. I don't.
Mm.
Like, especially if they don't raise the power, and if I do, just, I'll infuse it up a little bit, but you get one artifice class item, I'm good. I don't need another piece of armor in that slot, throw a couple ornaments on there, and that's one. I mean, yeah, you've got a little more stats on the other 4, but every class item is useless.
Mm.
Like, you could turn that slot off for drops for me, and it'd be fine.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah.
the fact that, like, that's a thing is they're in a kind of a weird place. And I think somebody said it much higher up in chat that it's a 9-year-old franchise. We're 6, 7 years into this one. 6 years, I guess. I mean, this is like they went back on sunsetting. Sunsetting would have been feeling pretty good now to keep things a little more fresh. And then the
I
content
just
involved.
miss grinding for stuff, dude.
Yeah,
Like, I think back to like D1, and we could grind the absolute life out of Omnigul for a grasp of my lock, and then still not get the 5 out of 5 and have to settle with a 4 out of 5 because it was a random roll drop. But now in D2, you would just get that weapon as a drop from a Nightfall or whatever, and at some point it might even become craftable, in which case it doesn't really matter at all then, because even if you don't get the patterns, you got deep sight harmonizers, which I don't really like, to be honest. But we can talk about those.
we'll get to this in a sec because the way they're done in the battle pass, I'm not a fan.
Or you just end up crafting it. So it takes crafting, if anything, reduces the time you play the game, really, when you think about it, because you're not grinding the game. You're at Shiro Chi grinding Taken to level up a weapon, or Kali, and you're not even getting kills with the weapon. You're just farming Kali for red borders and leveling up weapons as you go, kind of manipulating the crafting system. So it's like I just miss grinding for something, having a reason to do something repeatedly. Like you said earlier with fishing, put some music on, get a team together, and just go for it. And then if you get it, great, and then just shout about it on the socials, like, you know, Margot leap farming. I miss that kind of stuff. It doesn't exist in Destiny 2. You don't farm any weapon. You just get patterns for the ones that you care about the most, and then just craft the one you want.
Yeah, it's rare to farm much. I mean, you've got the dungeons, but the way those are set up with kind of like the length of them now, the like farming doesn't feel farmable. It feels like a lot more work than actually like getting the one drop that you get from, say, like the new dungeon. Like there's a couple good drops in there, the new rocket launcher. You got a stasis grenade launcher, which apparently has a bug to it in the TWAB, which I didn't even know. But yeah, so they've got them in a few places, and now they're doing like some of the seasonal weapons are craftable, some of them are not. But then you have something like a world drop, like the Stasis scout rifle, which is so far on the other side of the spectrum. Like you've got the craftables, which you say it's like, hey, I just want the craftables. If it's not red border, it's useless. I craft it. The leveling process, I wish they would just like let you level it a bit smoother as opposed to like Kali. And then when it's something like a sniper rifle, give me get like 5 kills a level. It doesn't have to be a ton. Like the ammo's not a big deal. But on the other side, like if you want a world drop, say Battle Scar with kinetic trimmers, good luck. There's no way to go. That's the other side, is there's no way to go after it. So you have some stuff that's too easy, but then there's some stuff that is next to impossible out of just like time and more luck than even just putting like a grind in. You can't even grind for it. It's just a random world drop. And then you've got like positive outlook from Vanguard, which you can't actually focus this season, but it's actually got some good rolls. Except the Last Wish one kind of puts it to shame. That one I want because it's got the destabilizing repulsor. I'm like, that actually could be a fun combo on an auto rifle. So yeah, it is weird because like I know you haven't played Diablo yet. I do recommend, like, if it is just kind of like your Steam Deck chill vibes kind of thing, the way it is like, hey, I got a piece of loot, and it's like, as you said, 4 out of 5, but you do keep going. You're trying to get that optimized piece, but it's also for builds. There's a reason to go after something because the builds in that game are really focused. I got 2 more levels of a certain skill from this one piece of armor. Builds in this game, and I think this is the one piece of feedback I gave Bungie, because it was trying not to be a jerk. I know some people were like, I don't even want to give feedback. My one piece of feedback in the other section, figure out how you want ammo to drop and leave it there. Good, bad, or otherwise, like, what reserve should my ammo have? Put the number out there and set it. I don't want to have mods on my chest piece that can possibly bump it up. Scavengers, ammo finder scouts, last season's void weapons drop in heavy ammo. None of those make a build, in my opinion, at all. All of those are just getting around an annoyance that heavy ammo is something that we need to function in these games because you need to be able to hit some power stuff. But ammo is so unreliable. I mean, the fact that double specials is a recommended thing I see on Twitter occasionally is kind of a joke.
Yeah, for power ammo, it's wild. I mean,
so like if they could make ammo a reason, like the fact that Aeons exists, just stop. Like exotics mods, half my build should not be based around ammo. Like that is a massive frustration of mine. And the fact that it was a possible perk, I'm like, well, if I do run a void build, of course I'm going to do that so I have more heavy, but just make it drop at a reasonable cadence.
Yeah.
That's a
I
big
mean,
frustration of
Sanity
mine
makes
lately.
a fair point that we're not technically grinding weapons, we're grinding patterns, aren't we? Red borders now. So our grind is for blueprints, not actually loot, to eventually craft what you want. So.
Scarrow says,
Scarrow.
dude, if they nerf double special, I'm leading the campaign to cancel me. But that's the problem, though. Like, Scarrow, the fact that double special does help heavy drop is cool, but the fact that that is something that you need to do to get reliable heavy is the issue. Like, and that's the thing. That is one of the things, Bungie, we love you sometimes, but the way you handle issues sometimes as a company whole, it's easier to put a band-aid over the issue so it would like mess with the double special as opposed to dig deeper, get down to the root of a cause of an issue, and fix ammo on a holistic basis. That's the thing. That was like, did you have any feedback for them in those tweets? Did you say anything or just not really?
I honestly think that Twitter's not really the forum for feedback.
I mean,
to be honest.
yeah, that's going to be...
I feel like it's really hard to get it in the characters. You end up creating a thread, and it's just like, I think it just wouldn't be worded great in a Twitter thread, personally.
Well, what about
but I
right
did
here?
take time to read through some of them.
Yeah.
Some of the bits of feedback that are there. It was kind of a random request, really, to be honest. Like, it's good that they've asked for it, but it just feels a bit random to ask for it right now when things are kind of a little bit rocky when it comes to sort of stability. And
you have any feedback? Like, I don't know, server stability, that'd be step one.
Yeah, like 90% is going to be about that, right? So it was a bit of a weird time to ask that, but there we go.
I was just looking at, good players should run double special. It's like, I mean, there are certain loadouts where you can
cancel Ebontis.
Yeah, cancel me. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Love you, Scarrow. Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to be like Debbie Downer. We are just in a weird place in Destiny right now because we said it before. I haven't gone back to do my solo flawless because I'm now afraid I'm gonna get kicked. I watched on Twitter. I saw Leopard was working on one. You spend the hour and 10 minutes to get to the final boss. You get there, do a little bit of damage phase, and then you go and you get kicked. I'd be like, all right, that one's not even my fault. Come on. And that's why I haven't even tried it again. I mean, Diablo's a good distraction, but I would love to go back and just spend some time in there and try. But I'm afraid I've died enough on my own. If I get a network error like 3/4 through the final boss in there, I'm gonna be kind of pissed.
Yeah, Scarrow makes a fair point. I feel like with always on time, like this being Bungie, and with how weird it is with Destiny, where like one thing can break another, it wouldn't surprise me if the fact that the always on time Sparrow is fast actually prevents another issue, if you know what I mean. It's like it's a band-aid for something else. But that being said, I think they are working on Sparrow 2.0 anyway. They just need to make Sparrow's ornaments, man, and then way we can just
Sparrow's
have whatever we want and have the
Ghost
fastest
should be the
Sparrow
same
and all
way.
look different.
Ghost should be ornaments. Yeah, the ghost mods shouldn't like cost or anything. You should just pick what buffs you want on your ghost. You don't need to spend legendary shards on that stuff. So
yeah.
No, I mean, I agree on that one. And that's, there are always on time they could have nerfed or disabled that one. That's like a Sparrow piece, but just on the, it's like, I get that too. But I did actually want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the dungeon in and of itself?
I actually enjoyed the dungeon. It feels like it's in the wrong place. It feels like we should have had that a year ago. That's probably been said.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Feels like it's a Witch Queen dungeon, yes.
Yeah, but it feels like it's a Witch Queen dungeon with Season of the Deep elements added to it. Like, you've got the opening section, which is probably fair, and then all because the traverse between the opening section and the first boss is insanely long. Like, and you don't really fight anything that much on the way,
very little.
other than the water pressure. You know what I mean? Just making sure that you're all right and going through your little sonic bubbles and stuff like that. So it feels like those bits were potentially seasonal. And then like the encounters themselves are so Lucent Hive. It feels like a slight disconnect, in my opinion, between those bits. But the encounters themselves are fun. I loved the ad density in the first major fight.
Oh, it's nuts.
There's so many ads,
and they spawn like every 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, like it's pretty crazy. I mean, my bong camera was the way to go for me as a Titan, just light the world on fire. I did Lorely for survival, and it saved me a couple of times. But yeah, it's like it is utter chaos in there. There's no question about it. So it's definitely a fun room. Like running it with 3 people would probably be better. As a solo player, it is a bit bonkers. The traversal section, when I go back for like solo flawless runs, it overstays its welcome. The more times you run it, it overstays. Like the first couple times, kind of cool. Exploring for the little lore bits wasn't bad. Trying to just figure out where they were, but yeah, the opening, like everything, I think could have been trimmed by like literally take off a third of everything, and I think most of that dungeon gets to be really, really good. Traversal about a third shorter, but like, do you need to do the symbols in the front 4 times? No, 3 would probably be plenty.
3's enough, yeah.
Like, and then I know they're like Hive Guardians, so they have shields, but as a solo player, it's like I use Arbalist. It's not required, but it's like, that's like single pops the shield. But the health on those guys, if I'm sitting there doing, I could probably, if I had a perfect damage phase with just like my build, which is I just go in with a surrounded sword and it does all right, but it's like it's a 5 phase. And then probably optimal, I think I saw Sneaky was able to do in about 3 if you really optimize the builds, but I also saw on Reddit an average player was like, hey, I did it in like 12 phases. It's like, oh my god.
That'd probably be me, to be honest. I mean, the opening section, I had Halo vibes in the opening area. I don't know if it's just like the greenery with the like some of the kind of side buildings.
Yep.
Kind of reminded me of like Halo, especially once I was on a Sparrow. I was like, hey, yeah, this could be a pike for all I care. Like, it's pretty cool. But yeah, it should be 3, not 4 to get in the opening section.
Yeah, you could chop a third off the health bars on both bosses, and you would still have to understand the encounter plenty to be able to beat it. But it was like a really good team might one phase it, and then I mean, Salted Greppo probably said it best. A solo should be a max at about a 3 phase. I think that's plenty. If you can cycle that by yourself 3 times, cool. Now, if you want to make sure it's not too easy for a group, like you want to see maybe a 2 phase, do a little scaling in there. And I think that's the issue. There's no scaling. Solo scaling. And they did that in the Legendary campaign, actually, decently. It's not perfect, because I think the 3 is still probably too much, but like there is scaling functionality in the game. And I don't know why they set the solos, there's literally triumphs for solos, so they know people are going to do it. But it's like just the health bars, like the enemies in and of themselves, there could be probably a few fewer if you're solo. The chaos is fun, but for very certain builds. But I think just the health bars, like if you trim a third off of there, you'd probably be decent for a solo player for about a 3 or 4 phase. And that's kind of my biggest issue. But as you said, the fight's kind of cool. Definitely feels Witch Queen. You got Lucent Hive. You've got Deep Sight. Like,
yeah, all the mechanics. The armor's very much like the armor's incredible, by the way.
Oh,
and shades really well.
Oh, I've been having a lot of fun. I had one that had been going because it kind of has that little wavy effect to it, where it has a little bit of an animation. I had a bet basically like I looked like I was on fire, which turned out really well for my Titan. But then it was just clicking through shaders, and I left one on. I didn't realize it. It's like a copper, but like almost a turquoise undertone.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, that's not half bad. So I kind of left it for a little while, but no, that armor, love the armor. It's staying on there for a while. That one
my go-to shader is Carhay Black at the moment. It's kind of like this dark black, obviously, but then it kind of, as you get lower, it's like your robe is on fire towards the bottom. It kind of fades into red, and it looks really nice.
Yeah. No, like the armor is like some of the best I think I've seen them do. I mean, this is what I screamed about a long time ago for Pit of Heresy. Like, give me the boss's armor. I want the big Zolmak or whatever his name was. I want crazy Hive fire armor. Like, that's that type of stuff we see. And then finally we get like Lucent Hive armor. I'm like, this stuff looks awesome. This was a big win for me. I think the armor was.
We were talking about this in the clan last week. Houndish mentioned it actually. Back in D1, we could earn armor that was representative of the bosses we defeated, like Shield Brothers Why we got none of that? Like, I
Uh,
want to wear Oryx's head. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
I
Or,
want my Shield Brother arm back. Yeah.
you know,
It's little stuff like that that I think is one, Eververse. Definitely taken away from that to some extent. And this why this armor was such a surprise. I'm with you. Because I mean, what everybody loves Age of Triumph. Is that the right terminology? Age of Triumph armor? Like the end of D1?
yeah,
Like
that's
all
the
the raid
ornaments, isn't it?
reprisals, yeah. The
Yeah.
raid reprisals, they were gorgeous. We're like, we know you can make this stuff.
I've got a Vex leg.
I
What's this all
know,
about?
like
Like,
this.
yeah.
I feel that's the type of stuff where I they have ornaments now, and we have so many with PlayStation collaborations and everything else. But you know, if we're gonna have a Vex season, let me look like a goblin or a minotaur. Like, go lean into some of that stuff, as you said. Bring out some of the. Let me have a strike boss helmet to where if I go fight, you know, the dark blade. Can I have the dark or the light blade's helmet on my head again? He's in there. He was the dark blade before. Let me pop that head off and put it on mine. So no, I think strike specific loot would be cool. I have a question for you, actually, since you do this a lot and you would like something to grind for. What would make you want to grind for armor? Because I've been rolling this around in my head. I'll set it up. For the longest time, like, I mean, once you get a good set of armor, especially as crazy players, we don't need much. You get a decent set of
No.
artifice armor, you're like, I could delete every armor drop and never miss any of them at a certain point after a while. And artifice is, at this point, not that required if you get a good roll. So, what would
That's
make,
hard enough in itself, though, right?
I mean, yeah.
Getting well rolled artifice armor.
Yeah, that's why when the duality kick him off a ledge was there for a little while, I did a little of that. Um,
Mhm.
but what would make armor appealing for you? Because they are working on weapons, like decent exotics, and whether primaries and stuff aren't that powerful. We've got some fun perks for like weapons are kind of in an okay space. They're working on them. It feels like armor is very stuck. So I was
It
curious
feels
if
like a
there's
blank canvas right now. They are pretty much blank until we put mods on them. And then, like you said, and I agree, I shouldn't be putting ammo finder mods on stuff because they don't really contribute to the way you need to play necessarily to get the build to work the way you want it to. Um, I mean, they have seasonal bonuses, almost like seasonal origin traits on there, but they don't actually provide a benefit to the armor or the build, right? It's like extra XP or it spawns something more in the seasonal stuff. So it would be cool if you say had like a seasonal like origin trait on an armor piece, and then imagine combining different ones from different seasons, which then help add a different dimension to your build generally, kind of thing.
yeah,
They have like a stacking bonus, like they do with mods anyway. So the
right.
more of that type of armor you have, the greater the bonus benefit. But that could add a bit of a different thing without kind of making the mod system more complex than it already is for some players, and adding more mods to the game. Um, and that would create an identity to some pieces of armor and give a reason to maybe chase certain armor over others, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've always. That's kind of why I always like to ask everybody who kind of comes through that I remember to ask is armor is one of those things. Like I want an armor 3.0, and I know the mods are there, and loadouts kind of does that. But also,
Mm.
as you said, giving some things a little more. I like set bonuses. I wish they could, if they could lean into that more. I feel like there's potential, but every set bonus is just like here's a little more reputation for the season. That's all we ever get.
Yeah, it's so if they could if they could build on that and use that as an opportunity, because that could be like a you know like because you could have synergies between those traits, right? And then that's before you've and that's your new blank canvas then, and that's before you've even done your own subclass adjustments and your mods and stuff. Um,
And
but
part of me worries that when it comes to the way the loadout system is done, we've heard the way weapons specifically, they can't have too many perks. Like there's a technical limitation where too many things being active at the same time is an issue. And that's where I
right,
wonder if the set bonuses can't do anything more. Like a set bonus couldn't, like if you wore a full set of armor, maybe it doesn't have the best stats in the world, but it had another benefit that made it worth it. And then you grinded for kind of that set of armor and then it was worth keeping. Like this season could be I mean, if they leaned into, I don't know, they gave you a stasis bonus or something like that, like with this full set of armor, and you could just say every set bonus is PvE only. I don't care. Like, if you don't want to break PvP, you can do it that way, like combatants only. But I mean, you could just say even stasis, you know, abilities recharge 20% faster in PvE just by wearing the set of armor. You telling me people wouldn't try that and see what a stasis build feels like? That type of stuff. But again, that's where I don't know the technical limitations of where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's where I wonder if something like that is something they've thought of and they're like, yeah, we'd love to, would literally break the game though, and not in a good way kind of break. So I wonder if it's technical pieces where that could be a thing too.
Because it could be an opportunity for them to actually create small little crossovers between classes. Like if you were running Stasis, but then had like some sort of arc bonus on your gauntlets, actually you could freeze and jolt the target to break the ice. Just, you know what I mean?
There
Just,
you go. Yeah, I mean, any of that stuff. Absolutely. Hire us anytime. You know, we do Zoom calls. We're good. We'll talk
yeah,
to you,
yeah.
Bunchy.
Community Summit, if they're still a thing.
Oh man, that sounds like that'll be under lock key NDA and put your phone in this little baggie, which will unlock when you leave the room. Kind of, it's
I
like,
actually only think they really work as an in-person thing and doing exactly what you just said. That's the only way you can safeguard anything that you want to show
no.
anyone.
Have you ever been to a comedy show like that where they did it at GCX? They put your phone in a little bag. It's got like one of those locks on it, so you have your phone with you, but it's in
Right.
this like bag that basically has kind of like a department store like magnetic lock that undoes. So
Mm.
because they don't want you filming comedians, so
Yeah.
same principle. But it was like, I don't care. It's like I would just be. There's so many questions I have for them to understand, like technical limitations on guns, set bonuses on armor. Like, love to know what's coming down the road, and we can kind of talk about that now. That August showcase, I am so intrigued about because they said we're going to talk about Final Shape and the future of Destiny.
That's the biggie.
Yep.
That's probably what I'm more worried about than anything
Mm-hmm.
as such. It's not necessarily how this chapter ends, but it's what's next for us, really. Because we know they're working on Marathon and there's a lot of resource to Marathon to get that project to where they need to get it. But obviously Destiny's their kind of bread and butter too, and for a lot of us it's our go-to and our kind of hobby, right? Hobby. They've
Yeah.
turned Destiny back into a hobbyist game. Kind of lost its way a little bit, but it is back there. So that's where I'm kind of more interested, really.
Me too. Like
Now,
Final Shape's gonna be hopefully a really cool expansion. They're bringing back Nathan Fillion if they can somehow like if this was the thing they wanted to put out for Lightfall but needed, you know, another year to work on it. Hopefully it's the one to but delivers. But yeah, I keep asking everybody the question, what is season 25 gonna be? Much less the future of Destiny. Like season 24 is Final Shape. Okay, End of Light and Dark Saga is done. We've seen the full finale of this thing. Now come back in 3 months and do what? What are you gonna have me do in 3 months?
we say that, like, I remember seeing a slide from one, I don't know if it was like GDC or some sort of
All the
developer,
arrows
and
going
they had the
forward.
timeline, and you
Mhm.
had like Final Shape, but then it wasn't seasons. I even counted like and tried to name the other squares to try and work out which seasons were what. But once you get to Final Shape, it's almost like 30th anniversary pack, but there's only like 2 of those.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're like big 6-month, like Final Shape in 2 chapters potentially or episodes.
Yeah, they
I
could
don't
be
know.
doing I mean, that's one of the things that we've probably debated on more than most on this podcast over 5 years now is expansions, season passes, 6-month seasons. Like, what is the right cadence for this game to feel? I mean, if they did 4-month seasons, do they feel like they have to do more filler to bring people back? I mean, at this point
Mhm.
right now, I feel like they're limping Destiny through Final Shape, and I don't mean that badly, but it's a little more fitting now with the current technical state. Like they're limping
Yeah.
Destiny across the Final Shape finish line because they're trying to continue the cash cow making money. They're trying to A4 Marathon. They did get the Sony investment, obviously billions of dollars do help, but Marathon is a big piece. And then whatever follows Final Shape is something that comes next. Like I'm hoping post Final Shape, like last gen is gone.
Dude,
That
I hope DCV's gone. I can't see a
oh
world where you're in a new chapter, a new beginning, and you're dipping your hand into a basket of old stuff. I just can't see it.
no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that because I've just been thinking about
Because if they're like, oh, here's IO for season 27, I'll be like, bro, I'm out. I'm done. I can't be doing it.
Well, it's like, I mean, I enjoy the stories they tell. I really do. Like, just the story in and of itself, usually always cool. Expansions, smaller ones, some are better than others. We know that. Nothing sometimes happen like in Season of the Plunder. Aramis, see ya.
Yeah.
That wasn't the best. But then Seraph is like freaking amazing storytelling with like, like Rasputin in there, like him and Anna Bray, like having the final moment. I'm like, dude, you're gonna bring me to tears over this one. So there's very cool stories they tell, but it's like the journey we go through sometimes to get them is a bit long.
Yeah.
So we have our ups and downs. But no, I'm with you. I did not even think about the content vault is like season 25 or 27. Yeah, it's fun to go back to Titan, but we didn't get Titan. Like we got
I actually don't mind the way we kind of got Titan though, because if we just were given it as a destination,
yeah.
what would we expect? A public event activity on it?
No, I mean, I
Like,
think that's true. I think we got a better version.
it feels familiar,
Yeah.
but not quite the same. There's bits where you go through it, like in Salvage, you think, oh, this is the bit from the from that mission on Titan where you kind of see Mithrax for the first time, right? The
Yeah.
enemy of my enemy. There's a section where you go, oh yeah, that's from that mission, but the doors they're different. So there's kind of little throwbacks there where you kind of get like a bit of like a memory, but for the most part, when you're going across the rigs, the destination's familiar, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the better alternative than what we got in Haunted, where they kind of just gave us Leviathan with a bit of a refresh kind of thing.
And like we got part of the Leviathan. It'd be like if you got part of Titan back, not the biggest planet in the first place. So if we only say got the arcology, that wouldn't feel great. So no, you've like the fact that they use the textures and the theme, like the thematic look of the planet to give us the activities. Like I kind of like that as a way, because I was wondering, I'm like, well, I don't see Titan on the destination. Sure enough, it's all in the helm. But no, the fact that, well, you say the DCV going away, like stop pulling stuff out of there. But I'm also like, post final shape, especially if they get rid of like last gen consoles, stop taking stuff away.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
We've already, at some point, I would like to see them. I don't know if they ever will, honestly. And this is where you always wonder about the Activision deal, because it's like Forsaken, Red War, and then what is it, Warmind and Osiris, Curse of Osiris. Those four, but like the Red War story for some Guardians, I know they kind of like are skipping, they're kind of like retconning that out of the universe, and that's where I wonder if it's the Activision deal. But like that was kind of a cool campaign, like one of the bigger ones, and there's no way to go back and play that period now. No one has access to that, and it just like sits out there in some old server land that nobody gets to go back there and see. But I mean, getting activities for the season and then losing them at the end of every season, then getting new ones and then losing them at, like, I don't know, that whole cycle. I don't know. I know the game can't grow indefinitely, but it also doesn't seem like, it feels like we lose a lot every so often. It's like by Season of the Seraph, you look on the map and you're like, the helm's full of stuff to do and you got all that stuff going on. And then like we get to like last season when the game feels really bare, and then when Nightfall didn't land, that was when it was definitely rougher.
Yeah, I mean, because we go to like a particular place doesn't mean Bungie need to add it as a destination, right? Like you could go, okay, this is base Destiny. This is what Destiny 2 is, destination wise. But naturally, you'll need to, if you want a single evolving world, those destinations need to evolve with it, right? Otherwise, you just get stagnant. You end up with Nessus just everywhere. No reason to go there other than fish. Right? And then
You're not wrong.
You just got, and then you just got these little seasonal pieces where we do visit other places for one reason or another.
Yeah. Well, what next season we're supposed to get the exotic rotator. That's going to be all but the two that everybody wants. So no Whisper and 0 Hour, but we're going to supposedly get Presage. We'll get Seraph back, and then
Harbinger.
Harbinger. Yeah, we'll get that one too. So it's like supposedly that's going to come back as having a rotator to it, and I guess some chance at other stuff in there. Yeah. I feel like we've walked all over the topics tonight. I don't know if I had much of a plan of discussion since,
Nah, that's all good. I mean,
yeah,
that'll find itself in the legacy tab, so that'll go there.
yeah, that'll go in Legacy.
Um, they haven't really said much anything about next season yet,
No, they said they were going to
really.
be quiet. They like season 21. They're like, hey, we're going to share you some stuff. Season of the Deep. Here's a little teaser. And then like season 22, I think they're probably going to go dark until that morning when the servers go down because they're going to have the showcase that morning too.
Sure.
So
It
that'll
kind of
be
feels
all of that dumped in there together.
when I think about the year pre to Witch Queen, like you had moments in the year where Savathun would speak to us or would get voices, and she grew as a character throughout the year. And this season, for the first time, we heard Zifu Araf, right?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, because I personally thought it was almost maybe too late to build a character in that's got such a important part in the game that we've just never seen up until this point. Like, there's so many. I was thinking the other day, like, there's so many things we've done that would be considered an act of war that should have triggered Z for Araf in some way, and for some reason, she's chosen not to. I mean, there's probably a law. I'm like not a law specialist, so
No, you're
butcher me.
good.
But you know what I mean? It's like, could this just be the start of the journey where we actually get the final piece, the final sister in that kind of family of Hive pre final shape? Could she be part of final shape?
So that actually leads me to, when did we talk about it? Last week or the week before? Um, where do you think Zivu, where do you actually think she fits? Is she seasonal? Is she in the campaign? Is she a raid boss? Is the witness in the campaign? Is the witness the raid boss? Where do we beat Zivu? And then where do we beat the witness? Because we all obviously
So
obviously
weird,
we
isn't it?
have to win. But
Yeah, well, do
where
we? Because we do we though? Because corridors of time, we die.
I mean, that's a good point. I don't
So we've
know.
seen our graves. So do we? If we,
Destiny 2 is done. Final shape, just shut it down. We're doing.
I mean, I don't mean to bring it on a downer, but we've seen our graves, so I don't see that as a win personally.
Yeah, no.
um,
Been better. I don't want to go see my own in the future.
yeah. I don't know how it's going to work out. Clearly, we've got issues getting into wherever the witness has gone, and I'm sure Savathun's probably got a part to play in that because we don't have anyone else to really turn to or that understands it currently. And she knows that she was lied to by the witness, right?
Yep.
So she's lived a lie. And does Ziva Raf know that? She was a sister. Does she
Oh,
know? Did she know that Savathun was living a lie this entire time? There's that kind of part to it as well, right? So you get a bit of a family thing going on. Bit of family beef. It's always drama. But that might be the catalyst of force the witness's hand in some way. But we've got to learn a lot more about the witness, right? There's still so many unanswered questions. Truly, we don't really understand what even a traveler is,
yep.
what or who the witness is. We kind of better understand what the veil is, but in terms of why, and we still don't have that question answered either. So it's just going to be a busy year, isn't it? Trying to figure out all these questions ultimately need to be answered before we get to final shape. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a situation where we go through the final shape campaign and we end up in a Lightfall situation.
Yeah.
Where there's just too many unanswered questions, and it's like, this can't be the end. It can't, because it hasn't concluded.
Right.
And that's probably the main thing I think about when I think about final shape is they've got to conclude it. It needs to be it needs to be a worthwhile ending, right? To allow for a fresh beginning. And that's where I'm at with it, really.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's kind of what I'm hoping. It's like, for me, my tough debate is Zivu is the third sister. They were all sisters, and then Oryx decided to switch to brother, whatever. I think that's right. But like Zivu's the other one. We had full expansion Taken King for Oryx. We had full Witch Queen expansion for her. And then we have this big focus on the witness. And that's where I struggle, at least in my head. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. Like Zuvarath may be a piece of this is who we're facing in the campaign, and then we face in the raid the witness. But then again, it's like the raid is not beat by what, 10-15% of the population, however many raids, maybe 20 if you're lucky. But I mean, if people buy the final shape and you don't get to face the witness, and 80% of the players don't know what happens by not playing the raid, they're not going to be happy. So then, if you do the witness in the campaign, and somewhere Xivu's like still witness is crazy powerful, so you imagine that Xivu's not as strong, so it's like the witness like mission boss number 4, but that doesn't feel justified. So that's like that. I am very, very curious how they handle this here, because I can sit there and talk myself in circles around all this stuff, but we need to understand, as you said, who the witness is, what the origin is, more about the Traveler, because there's some link between the Traveler, the Veil, the Light, the Dark, Gardener, since thanks to the raid, and then all of those pieces. But also it's like Xivu being, if Xivu is on the level of the other two, I honestly wonder if they're going to save her for post final shape. Like if that's,
I mean, we're allies with so many now, right? Like, which you kind of thought was impossible when this whole saga kind of started.
yeah.
It kind of feels like if we do need to turn to Savathun, and she kind of drops a bombshell on Xivu, that Savathun is no different to us. She's a guardian.
Yeah.
And there might be a point where we have a common interest and we kind of can't do it without each other. There's a very real possibility we might even be allies with some parts of the Hive. I don't imagine Xivu Wrath will be part of that, but she doesn't understand
But
what's
like
going on.
Savathun and her Lucent Hive could theoretically be allies with us if she actually runs them. Because right now it's like, I don't know who's running. Is that her ghost? I can't remember the ghost name. Starts with an I, emo something.
Yeah, my kind of thing.
But yeah, it's like I do feel, because I feel like they had it for a while. Now Callus, he was a chump in Lightfall. So.
Maru, yes.
Inaru, thank you. Yes, Imaru. So at some point, I feel like Amaru's got to bring Savathun back, and then we have to have like a sit. Somebody's got to have a chat. Like I want to see Zavala, Savathun chatted up at a campfire, kind of like we're doing right now. I want to see them like
Zavala's office. Get Savathun in there.
I don't know if she's gonna fit through the door. She's big. That statue is not small, but I do feel like that has like, I do think it would be interesting to see like Caiatl, Savathun, and then Zavala and a couple of the Guardians standing there next to like some of these just gargantuan, and then Nimbus would be in there too. He's also pretty tall. But I do feel like that collection of like the Avengers, the in-game moment. It feel like we're getting to the point where we have all the others. We have the Mithrax, we have Caiatl, we've got the Vex is still, they're the Borg. Nobody gets with them. But then, yeah, if Savathun comes back as a Guardian, then you have, like, Aramis and Mithrax. We had Caiatl and Callus, but Callus is a jump. He's done. Savathun and Xivu. You've got kind of those pieces, and then you got the Traveler, and, you got the Witness. And I do wonder if that's kind of where they take the final shape. And if it is, like, an Avengers-level moment of clash, that could be a worthwhile finish.
And you have to think, if we're allies with that many people going into whatever's next for Destiny 2, then that literally opens the door to having completely new combatants in whatever that is, right? New enemies to face.
Yep.
Right? We've wanted one new race for the longest time, something different to fight. What if we just get 4 new or 3 new ones and the Vex are still there? You know what I mean? It could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. It's up to Bungie, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of why I wonder what they're working on. At some point, they got to drop last-gen consoles. I feel like they've been dragging along post-final shape. If they want to do, like, kind of a soft reboot thing, like if you want to play the next expansion after final shape and whatever that is, then you need to be on current gen because, as you said, new enemies. They could do, like, new animations, new destinations, new stuff. And, maybe it could be a way to where I'd be okay if they wipe. I'd be totally fine if they wiped my vault. I'm with you. Wipe my vault, start it over. I know people will throw an absolute fit, but I'm like, you actually got
There's
stuff to...
so much loot in Destiny. Even if they nuked it, you done it. You done the things that were most important to you back relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And generally, people just lean towards the newer stuff most of the time. Like,
I have stuff in my vault.
Out. We're not on Mountaintop Recluse kind of loadouts now. Like, we've moved on from there.
Yeah, so...
Please wipe my vault.
I mean,
I wish there was a nuke vault button, to be honest.
Yeah.
It'd make it so much easier at the end of each season.
Yeah, run in the Bungie server room and nuke vault bounties, everything. Just clean slate me every season, so I don't have to think about any of that stuff. And
Because I don't know
everybody's
about you, E. Like, I keep one of most things
I do
every
too.
roll. I've got like 15 of the same weapon because you just don't know what's good and what's not at the start of the season, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, I'll get to a point I was trying to farm like Whistler's Whim because I like bows. I like bows, and I was like, hey, this is a couple cool combinations. I'm just sitting there spamming all my engrams on that thing, and I eventually go in my vault later on because they all like dumped into there, and I was like, I have 15 bows. Crap. Like I've done that. So no, I mean, and then you're like, all right, now I'm picking through. Then you're just like splitting hairs, like which one's good? I'm like, well, it's a kinetic bow. Is it really that good? Like, kind of, but I mean, the way it's set up now. It's like your kinetic slot should probably be a special weapon, whether it's Riptide, Arbalist, Wishender, something up there, and then your middle slot is probably going to be your Incandescent, your Volt Shot, your primary, and then you got a heavy. There's not very many times that I typically put kinetic trimmers. Isn't bad. I'll give it that. It's actually a better perk than I thought it was going to be. Um, but
I kind of feel if you've got, sorry, I kind of feel if you've already got an exotic weapon in your vault, it shouldn't let you pull it from collections. It should be grayed out and just says already in your vault or something like that. And then you can be like, cool, because they're fixed rolls. It doesn't matter. It's not like armor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've gone in there, I was like, well, I've got 3 anarchies here. What's this all about? Well,
Yeah.
like I got 2 xenophages here, and I've got one on my hunter. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Nope. I've definitely found the duplicate exotics feel pretty special in those moments. Yeah, I was like, I would like my co-hosts aren't here, but I know they're off doing their other stuff, and it's like, and I've asked them half of these questions, but yeah, this future ahead as content creator for Destiny, you got like about at least a year, hopefully a year and a half, at least that we know if there's going to be like the biggest question is if August, Final Shape goes on sale, is it going to be $100 expansion with 4 seasons and all this fun stuff? And that'll kind of tell us what the year's going to be. I'll be curious where the story goes, but that's different. But yeah, it's like, what's after that? They said Destiny 2 is going to continue, but man, like the stuff that we're even bouncing around here that we would be curious to see, like to see the changes, the different enemies, different destinations, our allies. There's a lot of places they could go, but they've got to find a way after 7 years to make the loot feel fresh. Like the weapons can,
Yeah.
but so much stuff that people hold on to, wiping out vaults and cleaning up a lot of things. There needs to be some kind of soft reset. And I don't know if people are going to like that, but I feel like they freaked out once when sunsetting happened, but then sunsetting I still think would have been healthy for the game. I think they have to try to rip that Band-Aid again.
It kind of depends how many people are still on the Destiny project, right? Because like I said earlier, what is after Final Shape for me is probably more important than Final Shape itself, because that is basically the beginning of a new journey, and that would tell a lot of people, is there a future in Destiny 2 in terms of the direction it's going? So for me, like, they need to have so many people working on that. Like, that cannot fail, because it's what pays Bungie's bills right now. Marathon doesn't make them any money right now.
I expect
it costs them money because they're still developing it. So it needs to be successful and retain the million concurrent players on a daily basis or build on it, right?
Yep. I would love to see their financials on so many different things, like Eververse financials and like expansions and dungeon. Like, how many people are buying dungeon keys? One, probably pissed off when they do purchase, like actually hit the purchase key if they do it. I bought the season, but I don't have the dungeon that's in the season. What the, like, I know that, like, if people just bought Nightfall and they got that season, be like, oh, cool, I get the season. Well, there's the new dungeon. Cool, it's advertised. I gotta buy that too. I would love for them to simplify the pricing model too. Travis has gone on about this forever and like totally justified as well. They get away with more pricing, season pass, paying to skip the campaign. You can skip the campaign in Diablo for free. Like, just transmog. Like, you are limited in the amount of transmog you get. You buy some in the Eververse, and then something like Outriders or like Diablo, you unlock it, you're done. Like, the payment model, and maybe again, if they can do something to where, let's say I picture Marathon late 2024, maybe, probably 2025. Like, I don't see it that soon. They said they were going dark for a while, testing and other things, and as all we got is a cinematic and no gameplay. even if they show it at E3 next year, I still think it's going to be 24. So Marathon, I think, is a while. That's why when you say Destiny still has to make the money, I think you're right.
Yeah, because Marathon's been in pre-development for at least 5 years, which is roughly when the DCV got launched as a way of debloating Destiny. It's also a way of being able to shift some of your workforce to another project as well,
And PvP
as well
suffered.
as well as massively recruiting. Right? During COVID,
They
Bungie
hired so many people.
ballooned.
Yeah.
So they are definitely set up to support the projects they've got. But yeah, man. They need to. I don't see it. I see at least 2 or 3 years from here. I don't think they'll hit it because I wanted multiple IPs by 2025. It's going to be the end of 2025. Maybe slide it into 26. Depends how the development goes between now and then. Really,
Yeah.
the pre-development is just like concept discovery.
Right.
Now they've got a clear direction, art style, and they even in the Vidocs and stuff, you got them talking at length about individual drop-in sessions where they've dropped in and
So there's some gameplay going
drop
on.
in, dropped out. So they're definitely having like memorable moments, and that's what they're trying to focus on, is how to create those memorable moments, but also make them accessible, where it's not just about getting the winner chicken dinner isn't always the path to success. There are other ways of doing it. They spoke about artifacts and combining them and extracting them as a way of contributing towards your overall score. So there's other ways to win. So they're very aware of that. Other games have done similar things like the cycles, scavengers, and kind of stuff. So it'd be kind of interested to see how Bungie kind of put their spin on it, because it's a fine balance, right? Extraction shooter, like you've got hardcore Tarkov, or you can go like casual, kind of ease people in. So it'd be interesting to see where Bungie kind of drop the hammer on that, and where they kind of go.
I will say,
go
ahead. Sorry.
No. Just see where they're going to kind of make their choice, where they're going to hedge their bets, really.
Yeah, I mean, I know the community for this game, there were people who were like, oh, cool, a PvP shooter. And then they said dedicated servers, and they're like, come on, what about, we get none of that? We're over here sitting in Destiny 2 PvP like chopped liver, and you'd like, and they're over there with dedicated servers, like join back, like anti-cheat protection. And it's like, So it's like, they're very cautious about that stuff. But I was like, it was funny when you say like 3 or 4 years or so, it was like the Shadowkeep Vidoc look like the same people in the Marathon Vidoc, like almost all of them. Like there were so many faces I recognized that I had forgotten I hadn't seen. And I was like, that's where all of you went. Because I know I'd seen Lars Bakken went over there and he wasn't in the Vidoc, but I know he's over, and I knew Christopher Barrett. Yeah. Like I forgot about Scott Taylor, Steve Cotton, or a couple others that I forgot. And they were like leads on certain expansions as well. So it's, and I know people want to like grow within the company and then move and work on new stuff. And I get it. It was just interesting to see like a whole chunk that went over there when you started to see them all. And
well,
now
that's
Kevin
what
Giannis
happened,
moved
right?
over there.
We saw people get promoted into their positions.
Yep.
But none of us thought to think, where did the people go that were in their positions to begin with? Because they didn't really say anything.
Nope, pretty quiet.
Yeah, rightfully so, because they can't talk about it or couldn't talk about it. It'd be interesting. But someone's mentioned in chat about like Marathon Destiny crossover, and as a way of like doing like Sony do with crossovers and stuff. And part of me feels like there'll be Easter eggs, but I think that's probably about as far as it's going to go. Because if you've got multiple IPs, you want to probably try and keep those things as far apart as possible, really.
Yeah.
Because you don't want one to take away from the other if you're looking from a revenue standpoint, right? So they need to stand on their own 2 feet. So the further apart they are, the better. And they're kind of tapping into 2 different types of player bases, right?
They
very
are
much 2 different types of game.
Yeah, like your PvE kind of RPG shooter. And I don't know, is Marathon first or third person? I feel like I heard somebody say it was third, and I was like, really? I would be surprised, but
From what their job specs have said it's third person action shooter, and a lot of them talk about the Unreal Engine, so it's probably not even on the Tiger engine.
Yeah.
Which is good for that game from a development standpoint, because when you think of like Fortnite and how they've able to develop that on the engine, and how that engine's evolved from when Fortnite launched.
Amazing what UE 5.1 or 5.2 what it can do now. It's gorgeous, some of the worlds that they can build. So if they're able to
Bungie
actually.
Gaming UE.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
Their art styling and their artists working in that kind of game just like gonna be mind blowing. That's exciting stuff. But then you're like, what's happening over here in Destiny? Are we just getting like or is Destiny like the training ground for the marathon? Like you get promoted. It's like your Formula One team. You're down here in AlphaTauri, and then you get promoted up into.
But you think about it, right? When you're thinking about like a competitive shooter, that's what they put marathon as. And if you're having a meeting and trying to brainstorm what are the foundations that you need in place for a competitive shooter, dedicated service is probably one of the first things you
Yeah,
write down
has
on
to
that.
be.
It has to be. But naturally, Destiny 2, as much as some people won't like me saying it, isn't a competitive shooter, right?
No,
So
I mean it has always been and probably forever will be unbalanced. It's not going to be that kind of a game. So it's yeah, I mean with all of the abilities and things like that. I mean if they ever wanted to truly separate a lot of stuff and normalize where if you go into this you have like no abilities and stock guns, you could like have a set mode where things but it was like that was the thing when I saw I think it wherever they did it when they demoed Gambit for the first time. And this is always one of those like moments where it was in a bubble. There was
mm,
no, they just had the set loadouts that were on the characters that were on like the computers that, the players flew wherever they went to and played. And they just
mm.
had like basic guns and they played and actually looked pretty fun. Get it in everybody's hands and they break it.
Yeah.
So it was like the set loadouts and like limited guns and certain things. Like, and that's what you'll get in a Tarkov. You might have mods and stuff like that on your weapons and other things. And that's kind of the weird thing for Marathon is Bungie and mobility is a thing. Whether it's Halo, whether it's all of our Guardians, the mobility is going to be an interesting thing because I know the shooting is probably going to be fine. Not worried about Bungie shooting. It's been good for 3 decades or however long they've been doing this stuff. Bungie can make a shooter, but mobility also seems to be a thing they handle pretty well and in usually in a slightly unique way. So that is a point I think I'll be really curious to see how they handle the Marathon movement. If you've got classes, is it a hero shooter? Do you have I don't know. Like I'm not
I
a
can see a hero. I can see a hero thing going on.
yeah.
I can see like different kind of abilities. They speak about whimsical characters and stuff like that. I don't know if Marathon would be quite like that, but I can see like a hero-based kind of system going on. Dizzy makes a good point about a bounty system. I can imagine actual players within the game becoming bounty, right?
Yeah.
You got artifact, you become the bounty essentially, and then you have to survive it or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
you
the
also
bounty
saw
will be on your head.
yeah, you saw who they promoted it with too. It was like Lupo and like the creators that they sent like the marathon packages to. They were
Yeah, yeah.
your like the big ones, not your Destiny creators. They went for a different audience. They're trying to stretch. It's kind of like, hey, I typically make Destiny content. And it's like YouTube. You did pretty well in your little Destiny bubble. I made a Diablo video, and it's like, hey, more people, different people are seeing it. It's like they're trying to hit a different audience, as you're saying. So I will be curious
Mm.
how much carryover there is, how much concurrent is going for both, and then also to see can Bungie capture the magic again. I think that's going to be the big one because they just passed the muster or they just passed judgment on Naughty Dog's game for factions and said, yeah, this probably doesn't have the engagement long term. That's at least Jason Schreier's reporting. So it's like if
Right.
Bungie are the experts
Interesting.
on that one, and that's why like theoretically, factions is probably going to be pushed off for a while, or we'll see whenever we see it. But so if Bungie is the engagement expert, I'm so curious to see what they do again.
I mean, it's interesting as well because it's been quite a long time since they've made a third-person game.
Like I'm trying to think.
Oni was Oni, was it
Oh,
before
maybe.
that?
No, I mean, I was like, I know marathons were in there, obviously the old ones, but yeah, Oni, that does sound like a game of theirs. I don't know all of their history as well. Good.
Yeah, like most, they're known for their how guns feel to play, their gunplay, and now with Destiny, the movement as well, right? So they need to capture that in third person. Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It it's going to be a very interesting August showcase for sure. Um, but then I also think just like season 22, final shape, post that marathon. It's going to be an interesting journey to follow, but also before we get to any of that stuff, I really do hope bringing this all the way back to Destiny that yeah, they're going to have dedicated servers for marathon, but I think something I don't I do you think we as the players are justified some type of state of the technical, like, is it at a point, do you think they're gonna do that? Would they do it once they have it figured out on a technical side? Is it like, hey, we figured out what was causing the errors, and when we finally got it fixed, and you shouldn't see that many more? Like, do you think it's something they'll address?
I mean, it's a balance between what they can actually tell us,
Right.
right, as well. Like this, as much like with BattlEye, they will only tell us so much when it comes to making changes to certain things. And
Yeah.
if it's that kind, because of some of the issues that I've even getting personally is with BattlEye kind of crashing and getting broccoli and stuff. So if it's BattlEye related, then there's very little they'll say about it.
Right.
To be honest, because they don't want to potentially risk the security of the game in that sense. But me, as a bit of a technical nerd, I would like to understand it better.
Yeah, so, like,
Um,
even if they did a tech deep dive, like, they've done some of those tech articles before, I wouldn't mind reading one of
mm,
those, I'd be curious.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if people would, we're quick to pass judgment. I mean, I've made tongue-in-cheek tweets about, the game going offline for emergency maintenance. Then I tweet a picture of like marathon server room, which is like a pristine
I saw that
futuristic
tweet.
server. And then like Destiny versus Destiny servers, which is a potato with a bit of RAM sticking out of it.
Yeah.
It's a joke,
Yeah.
but there's definitely more to it on the back end of that.
Oh,
But it's
yeah. No, I saw that tweet, that was hilarious. That got a chuckle out of me, that was a good one, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I do it does beg the question of, like, is it something they can fix? Is tech debt piling up? Is there a point where where my wondering is, like, do they limp through final shape and then they do some, like, technical next gen cutoff, like, here's the new stuff, we fit, like, whatever's going, like, that's
I
where
think I think before next gen cutoff, dude, it's the cutoff from Destiny. Because there's times where emergency maintenance comes on and both games go down. Like
I mean,
Destiny 2 is still coupled with D1,
is
right?
it like,
Is it Destiny 1 causing Destiny 2
I
issues?
hope
Like
not. I really hope not. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I've seen those same things. They're like Destiny 1 and 2 are coming offline. I'm like, for one, I forget D1 is
why?
still even out there. Yeah, it's like,
Why, bro?
what are you touching in Destiny 1? Why is that even a thing? Um, I mean, there's been times
So
they've had to
like
turn off the API. Like,
yeah,
I
well
feel
they
like they need to,
throttle it as well, yeah.
yeah, they need to do some
It's a bandwidth
technical.
thing, it seems.
Yeah,
It's
no,
easy
that,
for me to sit here and say it's bandwidth.
yeah, I'm
Because when they
waiting for
talk
my
about a lot of
fiber
the
internet. So
changes, like a lot of the kind of like wells and wall mine cells, all that kind of stuff. They talk about things being on the ground.
yep,
There's only a certain amount of things you can have in instance. That's why primary ammo is infinite now. No more ammo bricks on the floor. So the only real things we get on the ground is special or heavy orbs of power, which don't last forever anyway,
yep,
and then this like fire sprites and stuff like that, which
yeah,
again don't really last forever. So they can control that to a level when it comes to bandwidth, and then they obviously naturally have a minimum or maximum rather of the amount of combatants that can spawn in instance at any
yep.
one time. Um, so I guess that's where the bandwidth kind of is, but I don't know what the link is to D1 though when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Because D1 didn't have a lot of combatants though, let's be honest.
No, it was definitely slower, a little slower pace than this one.
Mm.
Um, well, I was trying to just like pick your mind about the season stuff, and we have covered a whole bunch of stuff I wasn't planning to talk about, but it's been a fun chat. That's for
It's
sure.
just
I know I'm trying to see if there's anything else that we should be talking about right now that's a little more
what was in the
season.
swab? Because I have. Oh, sorry. What was in the twid? Because I
With
haven't read Bungie's twid. I've watched
Bungie,
my own twid,
yeah.
but I haven't read theirs.
They got a couple hot fixes coming. Basically, the Last Wish quest with Hawthorne will work correctly. You're not going to get your doubles.
All right.
Um, but it seems like you're still going to be able to farm Cali, so everyone will do that.
They're
For
fixing the Twitch emblem next week, right?
that sounds right as well. Yep, I think so.
Cool.
Couple exotic fixes. Vesper of Radius is supposed to be fixed. Capri's Horn won't be breaking Iron Banner. Sunbracer's duration is going to be restored, which I saw people saying it was broken, and then they finally say it like it is here. They said you owe Callie an apology. Supremacy is going to be the rotator. That's a piece of that. You've got the best dressed emblem they're going to be doing, so a little Drestiny.
The
Drown
new
in,
one.
Yeah, drown in the drip. And then GM's come back.
Do you know what they haven't done in a while? Bungee bounties.
They haven't. Yeah, I was like, I feel like I haven't seen those in a while.
Could do with a new emblem there. At least create some engagement for those that are streaming the game still.
Yeah. And yeah, and then rebranding the TWAB to the TWID. So that was most of the TWAB. A little bit of cool art, which artists in this community are always awesome. The
Uh,
advanced focusing. Oh, that's another one. I think the hits this season have come with stuff like that too. Whereas like focusing engrams started where it wasn't dropping high stats. Then they fixed the stats, but when they fixed the stats, they broke the like tier 1 focusing where it was like you can focus down to like 4, but then it wasn't even focusing the right category, so they completely disabled that page. But the pristine focusing, I still think in my opinion is too much. 3 shards and the exotic cipher in my opinion is just too damn expensive.
yeah, I actually crafted or focused like 4 or 5 aeons for my Warlock. 4 of them were trash, like beyond trash.
Where
They had good overall stats, but the
but for your
distribution
warlock,
was
they
just
probably had like
flat.
30 mobility on all of them.
Oh no, they were just completely flat, really.
Oh, like yeah, I know what you mean. Like 12, like
But
10s across the board. Yeah.
yeah. So, but in the end, I did get a decent resilience discipline kind of role on it. I didn't have no idea where my last Aeons went. I think I must have infused them on the
Mm.
power grind. But yeah, I had to spend a lot today to get them, and I had to go on other characters to pick out enhancement prisms from the vaults because I was running out of prisms to buy more shards.
Yeah,
It was
no.
bad. It was bad.
Yeah, it's just am I keeping you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just one of those things. It's like, oh, exotics are cool, and then the stats weren't right, and then it's not focused right, and I'm going. All right, I did before I think when the stats were working, but I like threw my dice into one of the categories at least. I ended up getting like a 65 or 66. Like I got a decent roll on something. I was like, all right, I may not love this exotic, but at least it's a pretty good roll. So I was like, that part kind of worked. We're getting there. I think it's just going to be a very interesting year of between features and activities and stuff that we know are going to be kind of portioned out over this year, and they're trying to. And then what is the season 23 is the big focus on playlist, like the ritual, right?
Mm.
That's going to be like the final preemptive. Let's see how much we can get fixed before we try and sell this final expansion and get people to give us this last lump of cash before they bail on Destiny. It seems like so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know we talked all over the place tonight, so I didn't have much of a plan, but I think we fell off any plan that I had in the first place. But we did cover a lot of things that I was looking to talk about just in a roundabout way. Anything from Summer Games Fest catch your eye, by the way? Did want to catch that one since I
Oh
watched.
yeah, there was a couple of things. What was it? Witchfire looks pretty good.
I,
Kind of reminds me of Destiny
I did see that
in a
one.
way. Um, because it was from the creators of Bulletstorm, so I actually quite enjoyed that
That's the
as
one.
a
Okay.
shooter.
I remember that now. Yeah.
Because a lot of people just bought that so they could play Halo, because it came with an early access key for Halo 3, I think, back in the day.
Yep.
So that looked quite cool. I'll probably pick up the Sonic Superstars.
There's
Pretty
definitely
thick.
there's an audience for that one. I saw that pop, and I was listening to kind of funnier, last animated one of those, and one of them guessed like, "Oh, I need a new Sonic game." I'm like, "All right," for somebody, and sure enough, they nailed that one. So nice.
And then when it kicked off, and I was just watching the first game, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting Prince of Persia vibes from this." And then obviously it came up, and it was. So I was like,
Yep.
"Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, I was surprised
Didn't
because
expect to see a new one.
the Prince of Persia, I think that wasn't development got like this is a separate game, right? Because the Prince of Persia that was gonna be remade, like Sands of Time or whatever, not this one. That development is either on hiatus or rebooting that development or something. So this was a separate one, which I did not expect at all.
Yeah.
Um,
Those were the main ones. There was a lot of good stuff. It was interesting to see Nicolas Cage there.
I mean,
Um,
he is literally himself. Like, there's like the magnificent weight of talent or whatever that movie is with him in it, and Mandalorian guy. I don't know. It's that I. It's a movie with him in it that's like about him or something. It's weird, but
Yeah.
he's hilarious in every interview. He is always like that. No, the one that got me like Lies of P. It's kind of a Souls like. Um, I always like Souls kind of games, so that one was one that I was, and the demo's literally out right now, so I could literally try it if I wasn't insanely busy. Um,
There's a lot of MMOs I felt.
I'm with you. Oh, Remnant 2, that's another one. Did you play the first Remnant from the Ashes?
I think I have it, but I don't think I've played it.
It's like, if you picture like a soul shooter, which I know sounds like odd, kind of like that, like an action shooter, but still with like movement and stuff, but like it worked way better than it ever should have. Like the first one ended up being quite good. And then
Mm,
Travis, he actually got to preview it. And the stuff he's told me about is actually really exciting. Whole lot of like tons of randomness to the like worlds you see, the different bosses you might come across. You and I could play the game and we could see damn near half a different game without even a
mm.
crossover in it. So that one actually seems pretty cool.
Liza P. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
Liza
is right. That
P.
looked
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
that one's cool. But yeah, I'm with you. It's like you had Throne and Liberty, you had Black Desert Online, okay, so there was a lot of MMO type stuff. I'm like, I can't do all of these games. There's too many, and
No.
that's one of my
Uh,
worries about
Was it
is
Path of Exile was there as well, right?
yeah,
So
Path of Exile. I mean, that's alternate to Diablo, so if they separate their release cadence, they'll probably be okay against each other. But yeah, Path of Exile 2 has got its potential as well. Alan Wake 2, I played the first one. It was okay, but hopefully 2 would be better for kind of a horror vibey game.
kind of underwhelmed with the extended gameplay look. We didn't really see much. I feel like we saw much from like the trailer piece
Yeah.
just immediately following that, which is something we'd already seen before, I think. So
Yeah. And then of course Spider-Man got a date. So, and it's a good date because it's about 2 months after August, so it's perfect for me to play Spider-Man 2 months into a Destiny season. Did you play?
yeah,
Have you played the other Spider-Man or Miles or
nah,
anything?
it's PlayStation exclusive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no PlayStation in his house.
It's on. Is it on
Unfortunately,
PC?
it might be on PC now.
Yeah. Um, Spider-Man 2018, fantastic. Like, I mean, I know you live in Destiny, work, all that stuff, but if you ever get a chance to, I do the same. Like, I miss so many games. I haven't even touched Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, much less Breath of the Wild. Um, no, Spider-Man from 2018 is a fantastic game if you get a chance to play it. Like,
Mm.
good enough story that near the end of it, like, I mean, yeah, I might cry in a fair amount of movies. Like, I'm not the hardest person to get to cry in the world, but I mean, gets emotional too. Like Spider-Man, well done game. So worth an experience
Nice.
if you've got the beast rig that I know you do.
Might have a look at a 5th gen graphics card when they become a thing.
I have a
A little wait.
3090 right now, and yeah, I'm waiting for because what next year, end of next year would be like the Zen 5 chips, I think. Is that if that's right for AMD? Yeah, Zen 5 next year, so like next gen of AMD chips, and then yeah, whenever they do a 5090 or whatever, that's when I'll make my next leap.
Yeah, same. I got a 3080 Ti and it's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh
Like
yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm
it's
good right now.
Destiny. It's fine.
Yeah. The
So
one that actually intrigues me for streaming is the AV1 because it's the compression that's really nice. That's the one I
oh
actually.
really?
Yeah, because like right now everything's into MP4s like when you do it, like when you
Yeah.
well, AV1 for compression is better quality for smaller size, or for streaming, better quality for smaller upload bandwidth, kind of depending on internet connections and stuff like that. Like even a cheap like Intel AV1 card is actually a really good thing. That encoder is like the next one that's going to be very, very popular.
Interesting.
Yep.
I'll bear that in mind.
I'm a stupid tech nerd too.
It's all
Sorry,
good.
everybody. No, I always enjoy all the hardware. Mortal Kombat 1. I will say, like, I watched the trailer from PlayStation, and then this one. The graphics in that game crack me up. Like, they are just so over the top with the blood and the gore and the guts and all the explosions of body parts and stuff. It's kind of hilarious. But I have actually heard, like, 9, 10, 11, and Aftermath is, like, a very cool story. You know,
Mm.
if you kind of take, like, Mortal Kombat being a story, but actually kind of a cool, like, story journey they went through there. And then it's like, this is like a reboot after the events of the final ending. So
Nice. I haven't played one for ages.
no, I wish I was more into fighting games because right now you got Tekken, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat in the same year. If you love fighting games, pick one. You got all of them. So that should be a lot of fun. Well, I guess we'll wrap this one up.
That's it until August.
Huh? Yeah.
That's all the big gaming bombshell news until August for us, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I'm also waiting for Forza. Like, I know Xbox will talk about Forza. I just want a date on it. I just love my racing games, though, and Forza is still the best one. Like, Gran Turismo versus Forza is not even... hasn't compared in a while, but Forza Motorsport...
Horizon to actual Forza games? Like track Forza?
No, I like Motorsport. I don't like Horizon.
Motorsport, yeah.
I like... Because, I mean, I've been getting into Formula 1, but I've had a car, taking it on tracks, and, like, doing laps on, like, Spa and all that type of stuff, just like, you know, Silverstone and like those things.
Yeah,
I want to
can't beat that.
Circuit of the Americas, like, and that's because my buddy, like 2 buddies and I, this will be a stupid story, but it was either maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember which one, and they had a point where like your friends could go like do a ghost, and it was like a spec car, couldn't change anything, and it was like trying to go as fast as you can, just a lap, like trying to get your hot lap running.
Yeah.
And it was just your ghost. And my friends and I, we were like trading times, like shaving milliseconds off each other. And one of them was Laguna Seca. So it's like got the big ass hill, classic course, but it's in like a 65 Mustang. So can't handle for a damn. So, and you're trying to get the best time.
Nothing but oversteer.
Yeah, pretty much. You're like half drifting the whole thing. So we got that one to a point where one of us was like, all right, I don't think I'm ever going to touch that. And then we moved over to Ferrari, and it might have been Silverstone, but it was definitely like a European track. I remember one of the fun ones might have been Spa. And and then the Ferrari again, it's just like shaving seconds, trading ghosts with each other. It's like, and I miss those moments because like Forza Horizon's kind of fun, but it's like after a while, I'm like, it's like the road courses. I don't know where I'm going. I like learning a track and knowing, okay, I got my braking zone here. I know where to hit the apex on the corner. Like that's me in racing, and I miss it. And now that I've been getting into Formula 1, watching Drive to Survive and everything, I'm like, give me more racing. I want my racing game on just like tucked away on the side for me. That's would be my wind down, but again, I'd probably be tense as hell, but like,
yeah,
I love racing.
Me and my friend did a similar thing. We did like the Catalonia circuit in Barcelona, and then we did controller times, and then we tried to do steering wheel times. That was tough.
My buddy, who's probably not listening to this, but he bought one of the steering wheel setups. But his is like one of those things you get with a bonus check kind of thing. He got like the Formula 1 wheel. Like
nice.
Legit with like the hydraulic resistance to it and the pedals. And I'm like, for a racing setup, I mean, there are crazy setups, which like Verstappen has and stuff like that, of course, for like iRacing, but just for like what he had sitting there, and we were playing F1 a little bit, man, that felt good. Just the wheel.
Feedback.
Yeah, the feedback felt perfect. It was so good. So I was a little jealous of that setup. So he'll probably beat me if we do any racing games, but I'm still going to try.
Nice.
Oh, well, yeah, so we've got Capcom, Xbox, Starfield to be a big one. Do you have any interest in Starfield? I'm curious.
I do, but I feel like it's just going to be Fallout 4 in space. So my expectations are low.
Same.
But then it can only go up from here.
That's true.
That's where I'm going to keep them.
I was chatting with my brother the other night, and yeah, Fallout 4 in space is about all I have expectations for. Anything more than that, cool. Is it bigger than I probably have time for? Also true, but I was like, I will be curious if it hits on the if it lands for the people who want it to. Because after Redfall, I know they need a little love over there. Yeah, we've had very big highs and lows in gaming this year. We had Redfall, and then we went down to Gollum. But then we also had like Tears of the Kingdom, Jedi Survivor, Diablo 4, and a couple of these other things. So it's been quite a yo-yo. And then we're sitting here in this little one little tiny track of Destiny, driving down the side of the road in like the like bicycle
little cycle lane.
Yeah,
this is us.
Yep, we're just cruising over here, doing our 6-year-old thing, holding on. Started with Forspoken. That's right. Yeah, we had Forspoken, Wolong. Yeah. Well. Next time we have you back, I'll have to have the other 2 guys here, just to make sure we get a full chat.
Yeah, it's all good.
But as long as the hours
are pretty good for me.
I was gonna say, if the hours aren't so bad for you, I'll have to reach out. I guess I feel bad sometimes asking anybody on your side of the ocean over there because it's just gonna be later. But if you're up late anyway, then yeah, I might have to drag you back occasionally.
Yeah, Thursdays I tend to keep relatively free. I don't cover TWIDs So on a Thursday.
That one hurt. That one pains you to say it. I can see it on you. It's
Yeah, but I do make a twid. I
yes.
don't cover the twid. So yeah,
Sounds like you're saying twit,
Thursday.
by the way.
Yeah. So I
The
tend to
sweet.
use that day as if I'm doing anything for the weekend content wise.
Yeah.
So that way I kind of do free up the weekend. I'm not working the weekend, but there'll be content out.
Nice.
So that's how I have to juggle it, right? Between school runs and family time and stuff. So
I don't know. Walking dogs and staying fit and everything else looked like you had a dog running around back there too. So
yeah, he's literally laying just down here.
oh, nice. Yeah, mine are.
Yeah.
My 3 are in the other room. My wife's taking care of them for the moment. So, well, we're getting hour and 45. I think we chatted around a whole lot of stuff tonight, but definitely a good chat with you. And sometimes you just got to be fair about Destiny, but it's like, cautious optimism and potential. Those are words that I've said about this game, I think, for 9 years now, and I probably have those same hopes for the future.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that like any frustration or critique we have comes from a good place. It's because we want to see the game do good. We know Bungie know it can be better. We know it can be better, and at times we can be frustrated as creators at times,
Yep.
but more as players, right? And when we feel the same pain that players feel when the game's not what Bungie want it to be. So it does come from a good place. There are different ways of putting feedback out there, which, like you said earlier with the tweet, I didn't reply on it because I just think it's the wrong forum for it.
I get that too.
But it's hopefully it gets better from here, and we get a bit more info, or a bit more direction, clarity. Transparency is the best thing Bungie can do when things aren't going the way they want it to go. So
yeah, post that Destiny showcase. I'm gonna be like, all right, who wants to come on the show and talk? Even though we'll be in the middle of a new season, so everybody's gonna be making content. Give it about 2 weeks for all that stuff to digest, and then I'll bring. I need to have like you and Scarrow. Probably would be a funny. If we could get like 5 people chatting, that'd be.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Well, enjoy your evening. Thank your wife for letting me steal you for close to 2 hours. Appreciate that as always. But it was
Appreciate having me.
I'll say it for the guys too. It's always our pleasure to have you on, man. It's much appreciated, and I might cross over into the 6-figure subscribers shortly.
I saw, dude.
Here with you.
You're literally like 300 away. How are we not?
I'm on the brink. I'm not quite to where I'm gonna be like watching it, but I'm sub 250. So it's
all right. So you're gonna start streaming when you're like sub 100. Are you gonna start streaming? Do the countdown? Get it live?
I guess that'd be a way to do it. Streaming on YouTube to like get the.
I did it when mine was coming up, and then when it got to like 100, I just went live with it, and you kind of just have the countdown there. You can have it up as like a big number, and just celebrate the moment. You've grinded and worked so hard. I watched your stuff before I was making stuff, so
well, yeah. And then you skyrocketed past me, which is many have done, and then somebody like Mactix is like, holy dude, that guy's on different level.
Like you see those people just have those moments, right, where they kind of go to the moon, and everyone has those little moments in their creation career, and it's just trying to make that just make that last as long as possible, right? In terms of that trajectory. It will plateau, but then there's no reason why you can't make that happen again, right? Every time we post a video, it's just rolling the dice one more time. So
which is this going to be a good day for the YouTube algorithm? Let's wait and see.
That's it.
Yep. All right. Well, on that bombshell, in Top Gear fashion, thank you guys, chat, for being here. Episode 252 with the special guest, Mr. Jarv. Thank you very much. And for this episode, it has been the last word.